Hello, everyone, and welcome to another VSM Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Krakowski. It's been a while since I've been on one of these. I know. Right.
I thought you were about to say Monday Motivation because we did one
now.
About 5 minutes ago, but it's not a Monday Motivation. It's just a regular podcast.
It's
with an irregular guest.
Right. Yeah, we're getting it. I feel like I have the time now to relax and articulate some thoughts here. So, joined, of course, by Goran Vazovic.
How's it going, everybody?
And today we have a special guest, Sam Isaacson from Bridgewater Bank.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, we're super excited to have you. You have a pretty unique position at Bridgewater, isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct. So a little bit unconventional position in the banking world. So it's Assistant Vice President of Business Services. So I handle all new clients, existing clients, and partner with the majority of our lenders just to make sure that the relationship is going well. Get a face to an email address that's kind of missing in today's world when everything's electronic. And overall, I partner with marketing as well and try to present Bridgewater in a good fashion. So,
and you certainly do that. We went to I first met you at the Millennial event that you held.
Yes,
and that was super fun. That's in the Uptown location for Bridgewater. Beautiful building, super great office environment. I got to imagine the people who are working there love it, that they have a balcony that they can go out on and hang out, eat lunch, whatever.
Oh my gosh, barely any work gets done up there, I would say. Everyone thinks about it all day long. That location, we went through an acquisition, and so we got that about a year ago. And we put a lot of sweat, a lot of tears into that building, and we finally finished with the remodeling, and it's great. We have 2 patios. We have events like the Millennial event as well, where we get successful entrepreneurs like you guys up there.
Well, thank you.
You know, drinking our wine, drinking our beer, and
I was drinking water. That was a pretty cheap date. All right.
That's why we keep you around. So it was a great event, and hopefully at the end of this we can kind of give some more information about that for our listeners.
Yeah. So, obviously, thank you for inviting us to the event. It was great. That was the first kickoff to that event, and hopefully you're gonna be doing those on regular.
Yes, you got it.
And I think we can just kind of jump in as far what was a catalyst to put an event like that. And us being in real estate, we dealt with other banks and other people do on regular basis, but no bank puts anything up like that. It's usually something like meet and greet your banker over some stale chips and sandwiches
and some water,
and then
some water out of a cooler.
Right. So you want to give our listeners and us a little bit more background what the initiative is that you're putting together for Bridgewater and what the overall vision is into the future, and kind of take off on the entire relationship aspect of your bank.
Yeah, so a little bit about Bridgewater. So we're about 11 plus years old now. Strictly a real estate lending bank in the beginning, but now we've kind of evolved to a full service entrepreneurial bank. So we service anyone from seasoned business entrepreneurs all the way down to the consumer opening up their first checking account in their life. And so we know that there's a lot of banks out there, and a lot of banks do a really good job at providing poor service. And so,
yes, they do.
As we grew and as we got to 8 to 9 to 10 years old, we realized that the only way to differentiate ourselves in a watered down banking industry is to put the human element back in banking. So not necessarily talking about LTVs and different metrics on how to get a loan packaged and closed. It's more of creating a relationship. So we thought, partnering with our our marketing department, we need to put on events and we need to do things that will bring people out of their houses, out of their cubes, out of their offices, and get them to our events to show us what we're all about. And I think with this millennial event, it's a 6-part series. We just had our first one in April. Terrible weather, but you guys still showed up, which is fantastic.
We still got the drone.
We did it all. We got intern Isaac.
The vlog.
You came
harassing everyone.
Yes. And we will have that link for everyone that's listening. If you're listening on SoundCloud or iTunes, we'll have that link so you can watch the vlog and the whole event in action.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. And so our second one is May 24th, 5:30 to 8 at our Uptown location. I think it's 3100 Hennepin Ave. And we would love to see you guys there. It's a unique environment, and the people that are there aren't just there to throw out their business cards. It's a different type of networking. It's friends in a room enjoying a nice drink after working a long day.
Right.
And, we deserve a drink halfway through the week, right?
Right.
Or
every
2
time.
or 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we do events like that all the time. So.
Awesome. Well, just out of curiosity, and I've met, Jerry, the CEO of Bridgewater, many years ago, and I feel like it was probably like 7-8 years ago. And what I always took away from that initial meeting is that was the person that looked beyond the numbers or somebody's balance sheet or their PFS, personal financial statement. How much of his kind of values or how did that translate to everybody, within that organization? Because I kind of want to find that out. How do I go from top down? And how many employees do you guys have right now?
I think we have about 110 right now, plus or minus 1 or 2. We're hiring like crazy. I've been at the bank for about 3 years, and I was the 50th employee. And so in a matter of 3 years, we doubled. And Jerry, he's unique, very successul guy. I mean, you can see him walking around the office with his flip-flops, board shorts, and a backwards hat, and then you would never know he's the CEO of a very successful company. And so Jerry's overall philosophy and his generosity and his kindness just trickles down throughout the political or non-political structure that we have at Bridgewater. So a lot of banks, they have their web matrix of who you have to go to on a day-to-day basis and who you can and cannot talk to at Bridgewater. And I assume at VSM too is an Opendoor policy. I mean, there's no dumb question. Everyone's here for the same reason. Everyone's here just not for a paycheck, but to make good relationships. And so I think Jerry does that.
We do have an Opendoor policy, but I would say that there are a few dumb questions.
There are a few.
Yeah. Everybody, but that's the thing. Everybody's okay. Somebody could say, "Oh, that's a dumb question," but that's okay. You can ask more dumb questions.
Right.
Yeah.
You got it. They foster that environment.
So what part of how do you put that together? I guess in a employee handbook, the entire culture and the mentality of a leader, and how does it transcend to employees, new people that are coming in, and how were you kind of engaged?
I would say it's funny you mentioned the employee handbook. Out of 110 employees, we have one HR director that handles everything. And so everyone doesn't follow the same policies and procedure. It's more as we hire the right people. Our hiring process is very extensive. It can go to 2 to 3 to 4 interviews just to make sure that A, is this person have the capacity to take on the job? B, can you go out and have a drink with them and have a fun time? And C, do they have the fire in their belly to kind of do good things in the world? And so we hire all of our mid-level management and senior leadership in that same fashion. I mean, everyone wants to work hard, comes in, promotes Bridgewater's brand in the best fashion, and then they try to ultimately add to the balance sheet.
That's interesting, because I feel like it's the same way, and for many leadership books and stuff that I've read, and both me and Ryan and now Daniel, hiring the right person or the cost of hiring the wrong person is probably one of the biggest things a company can make. So when we go through an interview process, just as for a real estate agent or an independent contractor, they may meet with Daniel first, but then they're going to meet with Ryan. They're going to meet with me. Then they meet with Daniel again, just to make sure that it's a right fit. Because that's the key to our success, is really having the right talent. And that's kind of what Daniel's heading right now too.
Yeah, anyone who has any sort of out-facing position, people who are interacting with the public a lot,
right?
That's representing you and your brand. So it's extremely important that you do a thorough job vetting them, because you, again, don't want someone, making some, especially in your industry where there's a lot of oversight as well.
There's a lot of oversight, a lot of regulation, right? There's we have a motto at Bridgewater: big banks, no thanks, and we try to get.
That's on the billboard.
It's on the billboard. When you're driving on Excelsior Boulevard, come in and say hi and look at the billboard. Take a selfie with it too. But it's that's a good point that you bring up. We make sure that when people are off the clock on the weekends, they're still representing Bridgewater. I mean, that's the toughest thing when hiring. You got to hire good people.
Right. And again, as a customer, I can attest to this, and I'm not a paid spokesperson here. Maybe not yet.
Yeah, but, not yet. Full disclosure.
Again, that was a key from us going from a big bank like Wells Fargo. We didn't feel like we were valued at all, and there was not a relationship in place. And so we kind of just went on with, okay, that's how all banks are. It's just no way around it. They're highly regulated. There's just no way to break out of that mold. And how were you able to, again, abide by all the rules and regulations, but then have this breakout moment where you just mentioned, big banks, no thanks? Is it due to great leadership, but then also hiring right, and then getting, people to stick with you guys? Let's take Wells Fargo again. Yep. I don't like Wells Fargo, so who cares? But you typically, when you engage a personal banker, they're going to be there for 3 to 6 months
at least. Yep.
And that's what everybody hates, especially if you're a business client.
Yep.
You don't want to have a revolving door to someone that you're supposed to interact with every couple days or so.
Yeah.
So
it's huge. I mean, it's the revolving door that everyone hates when you go to a bank or any institution, right? Your realtor, your broker, anything in life. And that at Bridgewater, we hire highly educated individuals who will be there for the long run. I mean, it is a career; it's not just a job. And so, when you come into Bridgewater for a very small business just starting out, or a very successful real estate brokerage, we pair you with the correct banker, with the correct lender, and even with the correct marketing individual with doing events like this. I mean, this is Bridgewater in itself doing this podcast, and I don't think if Wells Fargo account executives or anything like that would want to come in and do this, because they would have to get 10 approvals before they would have to come in.
Yeah, we've run into that.
That's 100% right.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. And this one took a quick email and a high five, and here we are. So it's I would say that's definitely how we differentiate ourselves from Wells Fargo.
So going into, obviously the customer service component is huge and makes a giant difference. But if we take it now and focus it back to the real estate function, which is what I think most of our listeners are interested in, what sort of advantages, and maybe keep it general at first, does someone have working with a private bank, a smaller, relative to Wells Fargo type bank like Bridgewater?
I would say the connections. Although we are extremely fast, accurate, and we're dedicated to get the deal done. I just think most banks are like that, but I think what differentiates ourselves is the amount of people that we know, not only in St. Paul, Minneapolis, but in the whole Twin Cities infill area. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking for a property, you're looking to sell a property, or you're looking to get a deal done, tap into our network. We'll let you know who we know, and we'll get you connected with the right people. And I think that's we have everything to get the deal done faster than any other bank, but at the same time, we'll make sure you're comfortable and your business is growing in the end.
What about the people, the investors who are, they have 5 investment properties right now, and everything is, they purchased it on a Fannie Freddie loan, and they're continuing to expand. They want to get into maybe 5+ unit buildings. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit what is significant about those different metrics, how they get into speaking with someone like you?
Yes, exactly. So that's how a lot of real estate individuals get their start, right? They buy their first duplex, triplex, and then they go to a fourplex, and all of a sudden they own an apartment building. And so I think to get ahead of that curve with a lot of sharks out there they get to fend off, I think our lenders are extremely knowledgeable, and they will help you take that next step. They're not just there to say yes or no, you're not approved or denied a loan. They're there to help you to take the next step in the process. So if you don't know anything about purchasing, your first apartment building, we'll go out to a couple lunches. Maybe I'll be there. We'll talk about it, and we'll see what we need to do to get it done. And if it's not the right fit, we'll refer you elsewhere, and we'll keep that relationship here on out. So
yeah,
it's great.
Do you guys do any Fannie Freddie backed loans? Do you, can I go to Bridgewater and get an FHA loan to buy my first house?
We don't do a lot of that. No, we're kind of unconventional where we do have a consumer lender on hand. His name's Kevin Westerhouse. He's the man. But we more towards commercial real estate in general. So more the consumer. We tend to refer that out time to time, but we can do it sometimes.
Got it.
Yep.
And for our listeners who are a little bit newer to real estate and may not understand that distinction, again, who are on first couple properties, what's the difference between getting a commercial loan and one of those, Fannie Freddie, like a typical conventional loan, a typical FHA loan that a lot of people are used to utilizing for purchasing their primary residence? Can you explain some of that?
Yeah, on the consumer end in banking, the consumer side is heavy regulated, and so our assets are mostly at our bank. Our people are more focused on the commercial end, but that consumer side with conventional FHA, all the different types of loan programs out there, we have a lot of good mortgage brokers, good relationships that you could go through. FHA, first-time home buyer, we only need 3.5 down. Conventional loan where you have a little bit more of a down payment, so you have more flexibility. Whereas on the commercial side, things can tend to get a little complicated, and that's where our lenders come in, and that's when I partner with them. And then they can go 10 out of 10 in the knowledge base, and in the beginning we can field it 4 to 10 from my area. So we're always steering you in the right direction. So I know we talked about dumb questions, but there's no dumb question in the beginning when asking about financing, and then we'll make sure you're doing the right thing.
I think most people are confused when they grow their portfolio and then the recommendation is made. And a lot of times when someone's looking for a commercial lender, we refer them over to Bridgewater because of obviously our relationship. But our relationship exists because of the success that we've had, right? No money is exchanging hands for that referral.
We're not going to just say anybody, we're...
Right. We're just practicing on our experience.
Right.
But they go over to Bridgewater and they're used to dealing, typically the investor is going to be an 800 credit score person with a good income and a solid set of assets that they already have that are at a good debt coverage ratio because hopefully they've worked with us and we found them something that cash flows well. So they go over, they speak with a commercial lender, and they're like, whoa, the interest rate's higher. This is different. And they're shocked by some of the terms that are happening. Can you explain why that exists?
As far as the shock value on the client side?
Yeah.
I think it exists because how we structure our deals is strictly on character and relationship. And so when you come into a bank and you see a high interest rate or a not too desirable loan term or a down payment and there's no explanation around it, I think that you would get that somewhere else. But at Bridgewater, if you're very surprised with all these type of high interest rates or possible long loan terms or even the type of financing, we're there to explain that on our end, and then we're there to negotiate. I mean, that's the beauty of it. We just don't close our doors immediately. And then our lenders can, as I noted before, go 10 out of 10 on that structure.
Yeah, and that's really important. And when you look at commercial loans, you need to compare it to other commercial loans. And I think a lot of people, when they're first getting into that and trying to make that new relationship, don't think about it that way.
No.
Where, the typical term is, it's going to be an adjustable rate, 5-year fixed. You're going to go to an adjustable rate, prime plus 1. Right? That's pretty
correct.
standard?
Yeah, it sounds, I hear that in my sleep all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
right.
That to people I think is very surprising. And, I've always assumed that, and I think it's common sense, but that's just, there's a higher risk profile to borrowing money to an investor. Yep. So is there any specific way that you guys structure that so that to create those terms versus just saying, this is what the market's saying right now. This is what we need to do to be competitive. Like, how do you arrive at those specific terms? Because if you think about it, it's a pretty sophisticated way to structure a loan, right?
Very sophisticated, and it's all about being competitive. So, the majority of the time, there's going to be another bank out there that probably can do a lower interest rate, But in the end, are they going to provide the relationship behind the scenes? Are they going to provide the full deposit relationship? And so with all those complicated structures and how competitive it is, you have to look at the full scope of the relationship, I would advise our listeners. And so if you're getting a pretty good deal at a small credit union down the bank or a small community bank, I would say look long and hard of how are they going to help you long term? I mean, are you just looking for the money play and getting a lower interest rate, but are you looking for a good partner in that? And then I know you asked a lot of specific questions about loan structure. I'm not a lender myself, full disclosure, so I can't talk rates, but I can get you in touch. Anyone who clicks the link in there, we can provide some information possibly with a specific lender.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So I think another thing to speak to is, you are not, if somebody wants, for example, a deal, and I tell a lot of people, even when they are talking about pricing when it comes to VSM, if they're looking for the cheapest, that's just not our business model. We're looking for long-term growth and that long-term relationship. So if somebody has another bank has a more competitive offer for that one flip or that first rental, doesn't mean they're going to have the capacity or ability to get you in the second, third, or fourth. So a key to me when we were, in the beginning of the relationship with Bridgewater was the long term, the next 10 years. What does that look like? And that's how we position ourselves with our clients who are investors and, the clients that Daniel has too. What does a 10-year look like? And for them to go to one bank and think everything is going to be the same deal after deal, is just not going to be the case. So I value the fact that you can come in and talk to somebody and talk about your strategy. Somebody may say, hey, I'm doing this one deal. That's pretty much the only thing that I'm going to do forever. Or somebody's like, hey, this is the first deal, and if this goes well, I have the capacity to do 100 more. And they may not say that because another bank may not even ask the question and see where that relationship is going to be heading. It's going to be more of a transactional relationship.
100%.
So that could, it could be a detriment to any one of our investors, ourselves, or anybody that's looking to get into real estate or investing into real estate. You want to go to a bank and not just get money, but you also want to get a consultation from somebody that's in the business and then knows the financial aspect. Just like when they come to VSM, they're not looking to for Daniel to just open a door and show a house. He does a considerable amount of work to make sure that it's a viable business opportunity, that the rental makes sense.
Right. And the other thing too about the commercial loan that I wanted to address quickly is a lot of times you don't have an option, right? So if you're comparing it to some, again, just like a typical conventional loan that you're going to get on a house. If you could get that for an investment property in perpetuity, I think a lot of people would, because just to be honest with you, you can fix your rate forever when interest rates are really low, and that feels great. But once you're to the point where you own 10 properties or you're buying a building that has more than 4 units, now you're in a position where you're looking for something different and you need to talk to a different lender. You need to start looking into the commercial world.
Exactly. And you're seeing some success too, right? I mean, we started our bank probably at a not so good time through the economic downturn. Starting a real estate bank right before that was pretty bold, I would say. But when we had people come in, purchasing their first property, and maybe they were looking at defaulting on their loan, we took a step back. We invited them in our office and we worked with them. And through that, the people that stuck with us through that economic downturn now are highly successful ball players in the Twin Cities. And just by working with them with their first property, now we look at how successful they are now. I mean, I think that's a true testament to Bridgewater and essentially how VSM's philosophy is here.
Again, it's a lot of banks have those sayings or slogans, right? But then it's one thing to say and write it and put in a billboard. It's another thing to actually live it, practice it, and execute. So again, no BS. That's how VSM does things, and that's what really is keeping our relationship intact because we share the same vision, and it's helping us both grow. So that's why I think a lot of people don't look at necessarily right away, because they're so focused on that first acquisition. They're not looking 10 years down the line, especially if there's going to be an economic downturn or two within that period. What's going to happen that when my rate adjusts and now I can no longer support the mortgage or loan, is the bank just going to say, hey, too bad, we're going to need that, we're going to need the house back? Or are you going to be able to walk into a branch, sit down, and put a game plan together with somebody?
Yep, and that's exactly what Bridgewater is all about. And we understand that sometimes we may not be for everyone. For maybe someone who's starting out just to look at getting the best interest rate, we totally understand that. And maybe we're not the bank in that sense, but when you are looking, when you're seeing success and you are more competitive in the market, I would say come knock on our door. We would love to talk with you. We'd point you in the right direction. And if you're in a good spot, would probably recommend it. I mean, this is not a sales-oriented environment here at Bridgewater, and I think people appreciate that.
Yeah, if you're an investor and you're having success, eventually you're going to have to graduate towards working with someone in the commercial world. So, I mean, I don't think that there's really any competition really that you're not trying to compete against Wells Fargo on a first-time residential loan. Like, you're competing in this specific world, and I think you're winning very, very well. And
thanks.
What I think is really interesting that you point out is, during the recession, when interest rates, if they did change for these investors, or they are having a difficult time making those payments, you guys are... You're kind of like the Reno of banks, right? Like the biggest little bank in Minnesota.
I mean, it's so true. I mean, we are our billboard, big banks, no thanks. It's not necessarily, we're a large bank. We're about $1.3 billion in assets. I mean, we're one of the top 10 biggest banks in the state of Minnesota. But that big bank feel, it's more of the culture, how we act, how we talk to people, and our genuine hearts are looking out for people, and that's certainly missing, I think, in the business world at times.
But that's cutthroat. Yeah. I mean, it's not only is it good for the consumer, but it's good business for you. Like, realistically, if you don't want to take if people are losing portfolios in some sort of downswing, you don't want to necessarily take that either. You want to, it's probably much more advantageous to take what you need, what you can arrange with them, so they're still keeping you guys afloat, they're still afloat, and they're going to tell everyone about how great an experience they had, continue to generate more business, but then also they're not underwater and are able to continue to do business with you as well.
Absolutely.
So it just works for everyone, and that's what's so cool about the way that you guys do all these personal relationships, is you're not looking at a spreadsheet. This metric they didn't hit, so we foreclosed. Sorry, enjoy your life.
Exactly, and it says see you later. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, we have loan committee every week where deals come through, we approve, deny, and each business on the spreadsheet, you can literally think of a person's face. I mean, it's not just all numbers, and it's not just LLC names and corporations' name. We know the people behind it, and I think it benefits us, and obviously on the other end from the consumer.
It's funny that you mentioned the loan committee, and every bank has a loan committee that they have to run the deals through, depending on what the deal size is. And we've heard this, so many times, but it was so different with Bridgewater, because it was like, oh, here are the numbers, but then also let's talk about the people behind the business and the business itself. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, we've had people come and engage us, say, hey, I see your paperwork, but I generally want to reach out to see what this is about. So we had people, including Andrew, for example, come out to properties and look at our entire, business. And that is, again, just another layer that benefits us both. Because then you understand the operation. So when a particular piece of paper comes across the desk in the loan committee, you can then make a more informed decision, not just solely based on the numbers, but also what the context is behind the entire thing. Because it's kind of just like a resume,
Right.
If you get a one-page resume, does that really represent, or is that a true representation of the person?
We Opendoor 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we look at character too. I mean, if you're a good person and you have a dream and you're trying to make that happen, you're trying to purchase your next property, we'll do everything in our power to do that. I mean, regulation, big R word.
Right,
I mean, if we can do that, we'll make it happen. But I would certainly agree.
What does loan committee look like? Just to an outsider, that's we picture like
Suits,
a very long
it's
boardroom table with
funny.
Vladimir Putin at one end.
True.
Yeah.
It is. It's actually we have a large castle and we go down the stairs
Good.
There's only candlelight down there. And it's
Everything gets approved with blood.
Yes, it is. Yeah, don't look at my hands right now. But it's that's very funny. And yeah, loan committee is kind of a taboo thing. I mean, we have a no tie policy at Bridgewater. Full disclosure, it's you can wear a tie if it looks good.
Really?
But
I did not know that.
no black suits, no robots walking around. It's just a group. I would say about 15 to 20 individuals coming in from the underwriters and the lenders themselves, and we have compliance in there as well. And we just talk about the deal. For example, if I owned a very large company and I wanted to get a line of credit, that line of credit would be presented in loan committee. We'd talk about it. We'd probably talk about how Sam is as a person, what is his future goals, and ultimately what does his financial situation look like. And everyone gets to know that person, and you have a vote, and if it gets approved, then closing date comes.
I wonder what's being said about VSM.
Yeah, I'm sure there's.
Are they being recorded?
That's the next podcast. Yeah, you probably can. Yeah.
So, in that sense, then it's extremely important for whoever is trying to get this loan, whether it be for real estate, for some business venture that they're looking to undertake, that they meet with someone from Bridgewater and thoroughly explain everything, go into detail, give as much context for their perspective, because they essentially need to give the tools to their representative at the loan committee, because they're not meeting with the loan committee, right?
No, they are not.
So they need to give them all the tools for that person to be able to sell them to the rest of the bank.
Exactly, and so you hit it right on the head. It's the lender and the underwriter selling that loan to the rest of the committee, and they have to essentially convince the committee that this is a good deal, not only for the bank but on the other end too. So that's a good point.
And that's super important for investors to know, because I think a lot of times they just want to fire some financials over, call it good. But no, you got to make them see the vision, just like you would if you were pitching zoning commission or someone else like that. So I think that's awesome. Yeah,
it's not like working for the city. It's not like working with a big large corporation when they say we'll get back to you in 14 days, and you'll get an email in your inbox. It's we'll pick up the phone. We'll probably call you.
And that one other quick thing to keep in mind for the investor who would be pitching them then is, not only do you have to sell it initially, but you have to sell it in a way that the person that you're speaking to from the bank can go and resell that too. So you need to make it concise. You need to, hit your bullet points and make sure that even though you're providing context, that you're not meandering all over the place so they get lost and aren't able to bring that information to the committee.
Correct. It's a team effort. I mean, the person bringing the loan to the lender, they have to really sell it hard. And I'd say just be yourself and be open and honest. And if you're honest in the beginning, the lender will be honest too, and you'll get there in the end.
Awesome. So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna have another thing to say, but it's kind of unrelated to loan committee.
Well, I know I was moving on from loan committee. So we learned a lot about Bridgewater and the services that they provide, which again we can confirm and vouch for. It's fantastic service.
Just to go off on that is. You mentioned that you guys have doubled in size in what period?
Yeah, I would say in the last 3 years, double in size with employees. And
so to get to that size, you need customers, right?
Correct.
And from I've gone to an actual branch just a handful of times. Yep. There's not a huge line, people beating down your doors. You've been able to grow, I'm guessing, through referrals.
Correct.
And referrals are just like a direct result of what you guys are talking about, which is taking care of someone like VSM or other companies, and then we go over there and we're your best salespeople.
That is correct, and you're not on the payroll either. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, right?
Right.
No, in all seriousness, that's right. I mean, we network and we continuously network. I mean, you don't see commercials, you don't see cheesy radio advertisements that's saying, "Hey, come bank with Bridgewater. We're pretty cool guys," and we don't have our arms crossed in a picture in a magazine. I mean, that's the textbook one, right? And it's working with a company like VSM and making them successful or helping them get there. Obviously, they're doing it on their own, but it's then them talking to their friends and colleagues about Bridgewater in a passing and at a happy hour at a dinner, and that's how it starts. And they come knocking on our door, and we try to treat them with utmost respect as we would with our current client.
So when's the new? You guys are expanding so quickly. When's the next? You guys go to all the coolest places in the city. When's the Northeast branch coming up?
Oh my gosh, that would be fun. Wouldn't it? Have a little brew pub on the outside
exactly.
with little sushi rolls, for everyone. It's we're looking at everything right now. I don't know if I can state exactly where we're headed to next, but we are currently our mothership, if you will, is in Bloomington, St. Louis Park, Uptown, Greenwood, and Orono, and downtown Minneapolis as well. And so we're looking at more towards the east, possibly. We're just taking a look at it, seeing if it makes sense.
We know that area. Maybe we could work something out and help you find that building.
That's right. Maybe you can come to loan committee in the castle sometime, and
that would be
talk
amazing.
About it.
Yeah,
That's
meet
right.
the wizards.
That's right.
Over there.
and St. Paul.
That's true. Yeah,
that's probably on the horizon. I would think so too.
St. Paul, it's a unique beast, and I think St. Paul is doing everything it needs to do to kind of take the next step. I mean, everyone talks about when is St. Paul going to start, competing with Minneapolis again, and I truly do think.
Yeah.
I think it's getting there. I do. Yeah.
You're the next guest is going to be one of the candidates for mayor right now of St. Paul, and
so we were at the mayoral event 2 days ago at the Pioneer Endicott building, where basically there are 5 candidates where they pitched a group of people in order to fundraise, and it was nice to hear kind of what their general elevator pitch was to be mayor. But we had our intern engage every one of the people and say, hey, you need to be on our podcast, let us know. So, and then I made an extra shot saying, if you don't do it, we're going to let everybody else know that you didn't do it.
So you got to hold something over their head, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're getting things lined up. So the next couple podcasts are going to be very interesting. I think we probably have 1 or 2 lined up for this month. So,
wow. That's fantastic for you guys.
Good things are coming for businesses that want to prosper.
Correct.
In St. Paul, and not a lot of obstacles going to be put in place.
Yeah.
And also the current businesses will feel like there is love there, because VSM, we're a St. Paul company, and I don't feel the love. Do you feel the love?
I'm not feeling the love.
I'm not feeling the love. I got to be honest.
I'll give you guys some love. I mean, there's a lot to go around.
Yeah,
but
right.
Yeah,
we get Bridgewater love all the time.
Hey.
Okay, no
We want
question.
some city love.
There's a lot of swag going around.
A lot of swag.
Right.
So, and another thing that to go back on the relationship and how you acquire customers is through referrals.
Correct.
You have a great event, and the annual event, the Bridgewater Bash.
Yep.
And you can see, going to that event is again not like any other of that type of like a banking event.
Yeah, it's
and you can see
not.
the customers that you attract. Everyone is kind of alike, even though we have different businesses and we're not. It's cool to see for me, and we always stay there for a really long time. It's not just like a 30-minute thing. You make an event. It's not like, I'm going to stop by here and then go somewhere else.
You build your whole night around it, don't you? Right?
We do.
Hey.
And when you're there, find Sam, because he's a great concierge. He goes, I came up to you and I'm like, who should I be talking to? And you're like, this gentleman over here and that gentleman over there. I'm like, okay. And awesome. They were perfect. They're in real estate. We had a lot of shared interests. It was a great recommendation, which kind of brings me to, maybe one of the last things that I want to get into here is we've learned a lot about Bridgewater and commercial lending in general. Tell us a little bit about, Sam Isaacson. Like, what makes you, because you're under 30, right? You're a young guy.
Correct. I think I'm 26 currently.
Nice.
I think. I lose count, yeah.
Yeah, you got to check your rings.
That's right.
Check his ID.
Right. Yeah.
So, what brought you to this company? What's your drive? Like, what keeps you motivated? And we do a Monday motivation podcast and just talked about being well dressed as well. You're definitely delivering on that. Like, how did you arrive where
I
where
want
you
to make
did.
a special note of his briefcase. My
Was it
God,
the
it's right
briefcase?
behind you. It's
Oh,
right behind you.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets in there.
That's
that's a lot.
That's legit. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think anyone has come here with a briefcase that's so dapper.
Hey,
So congrats.
thank you guys. I appreciate it. I didn't know I was going to be on Fashion Police today, but
Yep,
that passed.
absolutely.
No,
We
excellent.
judge here,
Yeah,
everybody,
I
just
love
so
it.
you
I
know.
love it.
We'll have a picture of the briefcase in the liner notes for everyone to
Yeah,
appreciate.
in the credits.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
What drives me? It's a great question. A little bit, my history is that I went to University of St. Thomas. I first went to Bethel University, made the transition to St. Thomas. They had a degree that was pretty appealing, the legal studies in business and ethics. Who knew there's ethics in business? But there is. I sure found out in college. And then I was working at TCF at the time and working for the large bank and seeing how banks operate. I realized there's probably a better way to do it other than the standard teller line and the customers complaining, screaming going on, and there's something going on here. And so
Yep.
I made my way up to the anti-money laundering division where we investigate money laundering at TCF, and I realized I like people more than ripping out reports all day. And so
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to meet Jerry Bach one day and through one of our shareholders, and he wanted to meet me, which I thought was really unconventional. Who wants to meet a random freshly graduated person and just talk? And so I met with Jerry, and 4 or 5 or 6 interviews later, I made it to Bridgewater, and it's been started out as a banker, just learning the business, and then eventually being in the position where I am now, where I'm working with so many different people at the bank. And ultimately what gets me out of bed every morning is that, as cheesy as it sounds, I want to make somewhat of a difference. I want to bring a genuine aspect to not only my life but other people's lives. And so I don't necessarily think of it as banking. I just think of how can I spread the love today. If you can do that, whether it's through banking or through a podcast or just walking down the street with my briefcase, I'm just trying to do it, right?
You beautify the world with that
I'm just-
briefcase.
oh
You need
my
a
gosh.
purpose over
Yeah.
profit T-shirt, man.
Yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
that's what
Speaking
I'm wearing
of
right
which,
now.
What is that?
Right. So, Daniel, you want to go into that?
Yeah, so we've been referring to what we're trying to do right now as the movement, right? And we're getting a lot of
Hashtag join the movement.
Hashtag join the movement, everyone.
Trending.
It's trending, yeah. So, we got like Rafiq Moore involved, a lot of big, but essentially what we're talking about is just business done better, business done right. And it seems like a lot of the philosophy that you guys have kind of fits in. So what my shirt says is purpose over profit.
And then join the movement. There is a VSM logo in there, but the purpose of it is for other organizations and businesses that adhere to those type of values would join in the movement, and we would all be part of it. So you would then have a Bridgewater shirt that says that.
Okay.
Then we would all be part of that quote unquote crew.
I like it.
So
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And when did you start this? Is this fairly new or?
Probably 3 weeks ago, a month ago, maybe.
It's fairly new. It's part of kind of, again, join the movement and our pending move into bigger and better offices and doing podcast times 10, doing go live on Facebook, go live on YouTube, broadcasting all things real estate all the time, but also motivation, good business practices, and recruiting great talent, keeping great talent, and having a purpose, not just looking at numbers and
Just getting a paycheck in the mail every 2 weeks.
right, which is not what wakes him up in the morning, doesn't wake me up in the morning, doesn't wake you up in the morning. So that's kind of where it came from, or that need.
Yeah, our goal is to world domination through 1950s business practices, almost in terms of integrity,
Yep.
coupled with but leveraging cutting edge technology as well.
Right.
So
I think it's missing. I think you guys are going to fill a gap, and I may have to have one of those T-shirts on me.
we're gonna get you one. You're ready to join the movement.
I'm
We're-
in.
we want you in.
We're definitely
Yeah.
getting a T-shirt. We got to get also Bridgewater on board officially, and then get you guys as well a T-shirt. But you're more than welcome to wear all that around the office and like, hey, VSM.
I like it.
gave me this T-shirt.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. You don't see that every day, so keep hustling on that. That's great. And I'll spread the
So
word.
just to wrap this up, what's going back to Bridgewater,
Yeah.
the future, the next whatever 1 year, 2, 3, where are things going?
I think Bridgewater, a lot of community banks, people don't know. They kind of have the reputation of building up and then being so big where they can't handle regulation where they sell. And I think that's not Bridgewater at all. We're 11 plus years old. We're ready for the next 11 years. And so that might mean, hiring 100 more employees. But at the same time, it's keeping our core principles, keeping our core values, making sure the right people are in the right seats. And hopefully that's, branches throughout the Twin Cities so we can help more people, more successful businesses like VSM and, spread the movement, if you will, and try to, have a better purpose.
That's great.
Yeah.
For everybody that's listening to podcasts, obviously we'll have the links to the website. If you're listening to car, how could someone get in touch? What is the best way for somebody that's listening that doesn't have, you can just say VSM or Gorin referred you to them. But, how should someone engage? What is the best way to engage in order to find out whatever type of loan or business endeavor they need?
I think the best way is just check out our website at www.bridgewaterbankmn.com. Big shout out to our marketing department. They revamped it. You'll see some cool images on there. Go there, kind of check us out a little bit, read a bit about us, and then you can also contact me at sam.isaacson@bwbmn.com, and I'll refer you to the right lender. We'll get some lunch. We'll meet face to face, and gosh forbid, walk into a branch. It's normal, so don't feel like you're doing something crazy. Just walk in with a smile on your face, and our coffee's not stale. Our people are smiling, and it'll be a good time. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here. We'll end on that note. I think that was a super helpful, super constructive podcast.
Very.
So looking forward to being at the next networking event, which is May 24th. If you guys can make it, Uptown, check it out. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.